How my 80-year-old grandpa learned English with this simple method is not a cute headline to me. It's something I watched happen at my kitchen table.
In this episode, you'll learn the simple method he used, how to copy it in your own life, and a few quick practice moments you can do today.
My grandpa is 80. He's stubborn in the best way, and he decided he was tired of feeling lost when people spoke English around him.
And he didn't do it with fancy apps or huge grammar books. He did it with a tiny routine that fit into normal days.
At first, I thought he'd quit after a week. He didn't.
Because the method didn't feel like studying, it felt like living.
It started with one goal: understand and say the kind of English you actually need at a store, at the doctor, with neighbors.
Not perfect English, not impressive English, useful English.
He picked one small situation at a time, like ordering coffee, and he stayed with it until it felt easy.
And he kept everything short. Short phrases, short practice, short wins.
Here's the simple method in one sentence. He collected real-life mini-lines, then repeated them out loud in the same situations every day.
So, it's like you build a little script for your life, and you run it again and again until it's yours.
The wild part is he didn't start with random vocabulary. He started with what he was already doing.
Because if you practice phrases you never use, your brain treats it like trivia and tosses it later.
He even had a tiny notebook. Not a big one, a pocket one.
And he wrote down phrases exactly as he heard them. Simple, normal, nothing fancy.
When he didn't understand something, he didn't panic. He just collected it for later.
That attitude matters. Curiosity beats embarrassment every time.
Let me tell you the first moment I realized he was serious. We were at the grocery store.
He was pushing the cart like always, but this time he was listening like a detective.
At the deli counter, the worker asked a question he'd heard 100 times. Anything else?
Most people hear that and their brain freezes because it's fast and it feels like a test.
He looked at me and whispered, "Anything else means more?"
And instead of giving him a long explanation, I just said, "Yep," like, "Do you want more things?"
He nodded, turned back, and said, "No, that's all."
It wasn't perfect. It was real. And it worked.
That night he wrote, "Anything else?" and "No, that's all." That's the whole system right there. Hear it, capture it, repeat it, use it.
Okay, quick call and response. I'll say a line, you answer out loud.
Don't whisper in your head. Say it like you're talking to a person.
Anything else?
No, that's all.
Again. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Nice. That's practical English.
And notice what we didn't do. We didn't talk about rules. We just practiced the moment.
So, what's the method called? Grandpa called it my lines.
I love that. Not my vocabulary, not my textbook, just My lines.
Every day, he added a few lines. Then he chose one situation and rehearsed it.
And he rehearsed it like you rehearse a story you want to tell a friend.
He'd stand by the sink, washing dishes, and quietly repeat, "Could you help me with this?"
Or he'd walk around the living room saying, "I'm just looking. Thanks."
He liked lines that ended conversations politely because that made him feel safe.
That's huge. Feeling safe is what makes you speak.
Now, the method has 3 steps, and they're simple enough for a busy adult.
Step 1. Pick one everyday place. Step 2. Collect the lines you actually hear there. Step 3. Repeat and reuse.
Let's break down step 1. Pick one everyday place. Grandpa didn't try to learn English for the whole world. He picked the places he went anyway: the grocery store, the pharmacy, the front desk at the clinic, and the little park where he walked. When you pick a place you already visit, you don't need extra motivation. The world gives you the practice for free, and your brain loves patterns, so the same questions show up again and again. That repetition is your best friend.
If you're listening and thinking, "My life is too busy," that's exactly why this works. You don't need a quiet desk and an hour of focus. You need 5 minutes before you leave the house, and then one real interaction in the real world. Even if you only say one sentence, that's a win. Grandpa's goal was never study more. His goal was use one line today.
Step 2 is the secret sauce. Collect the lines you actually hear. He didn't choose phrases from a list online. He paid attention to what people around him said, especially workers who talk to customers all day. Those people repeat the same questions like a routine. Think about it. Cashiers ask, "Do you need a bag?" Baristas ask, "For here or to go?" Receptionists ask, "Do you have an appointment?" These are the lines that unlock everyday life.
And when you collect lines, keep them short. One question, one answer. Grandpa avoided long sentences at the beginning because long sentences fall apart when you're nervous. Short lines give you control. They also give you chances to breathe. You can always add details later, after you feel comfortable.
Here's what his notebook looked like. 1 page per situation. At the top, he'd write the place, like pharmacy. Under that, he'd write the questions he heard. What's your date of birth? What's your address? Any allergies? Then he'd write his answers in the simplest way he could manage. Not fancy, not extra, just enough to get through the moment.
And he didn't wait for perfect understanding before writing it down. If he heard a phrase and wasn't sure, he'd still write it. Later, he'd ask me, or he'd ask someone he trusted, "What does this mean?" But he always came with context. "I heard it at the pharmacy when I picked up my medicine." Context makes explanations easy.
Step 3 is repeat and reuse. And this is where most people quit too early. Grandpa treated phrases like muscle memory. He repeated them out loud at home, slowly, like he was warming up. Then he repeated them again when he was actually in the place. The goal wasn't to perform. The goal was to recognize the moment and run the line. After a while, the line stopped feeling like a sentence and started feeling like a button he could press.
Let's do another little practice moment. Imagine you're at a coffee shop. The worker says, "For here or to go?" Your answer can be super simple. Say it out loud right now. "To go, please." Try it again. "To go, please." Now the other one. For here, please. You're not acting. You're just getting your mouth used to it.
Grandpa also learned something important about listening. You don't have to understand every word. You just have to catch the key moment. At the grocery store, when someone says something while scanning items, you can listen for the common questions. Bag, receipt, rewards number, cash or card. Even if the sentence is long, the situation tells you what it probably is. He learned to relax and wait for the moment he recognized.
This is why the method feels so doable for adults. Adults have life experience. You already know what happens at a doctor's office, even in your own language. So, you're not learning the whole concept from scratch. You're just learning the English lines that match the concept you already understand. That's efficient, and it's honestly kind of comforting.
He also made himself a small rule: no shame words. If he didn't understand, he didn't say, "Sorry, my English is bad." He said one of his safe lines like, "Could you say that again, please?" Or, "One more time, please." Those lines are magic because they keep the conversation going without drama. And people usually slow down automatically.
Okay, call and response again. I'll say the line you need when someone speaks too fast, and you repeat the answer out loud. Could you say that again, please? Your turn. Could you say that again, please? Again. Could you say that again, please? Now try, one more time, please. Good. These are polite, normal, and you'll use them forever. One day, he told me something that stuck with me. He said, "When I was young, I was not afraid to ask questions. Then I got older, and I started caring what strangers think." That hit me, because language learning isn't only about words, it's about permission. Grandpa decided he was going to give himself permission to be a learner again.
And he made it social in a simple way. He didn't join a big class. He just talked to the same few people regularly. The neighbor who watered plants, the cashier he saw every Tuesday, the receptionist at his clinic. Repetition with the same people builds comfort. When people recognize you, they usually become kinder and more patient. Grandpa loved that feeling of being known.
Let's talk about how he handled small talk, because that's where a lot of learners freeze. He didn't try to be witty. He had a few friendly lines ready. Things like, "It's been a busy day, huh?" Or, "I'm just running errands." Or, "I like this place." Then he'd ask one easy question back. "How about you?" That's it. Small talk is not a performance.
And he kept his questions simple, so he could actually understand the answer. For example, instead of asking a big question like, "What are your plans for the weekend?" he might ask, "Are you working today?" Or, "Is it busy today?" Those questions usually get short answers, which means you can follow the conversation without getting lost. That's smart. You can level up later.
Here's a real scene. We were in an elevator in his apartment building. Someone said, "How's it going?" Grandpa used to freeze on that one because it doesn't sound like a real question. So he created a response line. "Good, thanks. How about you?" He practiced it at home like it was a song lyric. Then in the elevator, he said it, and the person smiled and said, "Good." End of conversation. Success.
Try it with us right now. I'll say the line you might hear. "How's it going?" You answer, "Good, thanks. How about you?" Again, "How's it going?" "Good, thanks. How about you?" Perfect. Notice how that line closes the loop. It keeps things friendly and simple.
Another part of the method is what he didn't do. He didn't binge watch random videos and hope English would magically soak in. When he watched something, he watched with a purpose. He was hunting for one or two lines he could use. He'd pause, write them down, and then say them out loud. If it didn't fit his daily life, he skipped it. That's discipline, but it's also kindness to yourself.
If you want to copy that, here's an easy way. Choose one show, one channel, or one podcast you genuinely enjoy. Listen for lines that you can imagine saying this week, not someday, this week. Then write them down and put them into a real situation. If you don't have the situation, create a tiny one, like practicing with a friend, or saying it when you answer the phone.
He also used labels around the house, but not in the typical way people do it.